Assalamu alaikum dear students. This is the lecture 2 of our third unit, force and pressure. In the previous lecture we have learned the definition of force, its types, contact and non-contact forces, and I have given you the homework to write of your own that which forces would be contact and which forces would be non-contact forces. So in this lesson we will study the concept of balanced and non-balanced forces. Let's see what is balanced and non-balanced force. Observe the figure. Just take a cardboard or just take a board and tie weights on its two sides. Then you will observe that if the weight on the either side is greater than on the other, then box will move on that side, and if weights are equal, then the box will not move. Means in both the directions, in the weight are pulling the box, and in both the directions the weights are pulling the box. Means in both the directions the force is applied on the box. If force on the both sides are equal, forces are equal, then the box will not move. Then such type of forces is called as a balanced force. Means if the two forces act on one thing in equal and opposite direction, means two forces are equal in magnitude, forces are equal but they are in opposite direction, then the object will not move. Such type of force is called as balanced force. And if the weight on either side of the box is greater than on the other side, then the box will move on that side, box will move on that direction. So when force on one side is greater than on the other side, then there results in motion of an object on that direction, on the direction of greater force, and such type of force is called as a unbalanced force. Here we can see that in tug of war also, if the forces on both the sides are equal, then the rope will not move, So this is an example of balanced force. Okay. However, if the force on one side is greater than on the other side, both are pulling the rope in tug of war, and if the force on one side is greater, then the rope will move towards that direction. Okay, so this is an example of unbalanced force, because the force on one direction is greater and it results in motion of objects. Okay, so this is an example of unbalanced force. Okay, clear. Now we will see the definition. If two individual forces are of equal magnitude and opposite direction, then the forces are said to be balanced. If the two forces are acting on anything in whose values are equal and they are acting in opposite direction, so there results in no change in the state of body, no change in the position of the body remains at rest, and such type of force is said to be a balanced force. For example, जब दो लोग पंजा लड़ाते हैं तो क्या होता है कि जिसके अंदर ज़्यादा ताकत होती है, जो ज़्यादा फोर्स लगाता है, तो वो दूसरे वाले को हरा देता है, दूसरे वाले के पंजे को गिरा देता है. सो इट मीन्स दैट this is an example of unbalanced force. Means the force on one person, force applied by one person is greater than the force applied by other person. Means एक जो पर्सन है उसके अंदर ज़्यादा कुवत है, वो ज़्यादा कुवत लगा रहा है एज कम्पेयर टू अनदर पर्सन. In this figure, if both the persons are applying the same force, then no one will lose, है ना. No one will lose. If both the persons are applying the same force, then no one will lose. जंग चलती रहेगी, है ना. So this is an example of balanced force. Means there is no change. किसी का भी हाथ नीचे नहीं गिरेगा. Means both are applying the same force. Now it is a characteristic of balanced force. When balanced force act on an object, they do not change the object's motion or direction. जब बैलेंस फोर्स अप्लाई होता है तो ऑब्जेक्ट की जो स्टेट है वो चेंज नहीं होती. मीन्स उसका डायरेक्शन भी चेंज नहीं होता, उसकी मोशन भी चेंज नहीं होती. इट रिमेन्स एट रेस्ट, और या फिर मोशन में है तो मोशन में रहेगा. सो इट रिमेन्स एट इट्स पोजीशन it will continue its position, it will not change the position. Okay, the net force of the balanced objects is always 0. जो net force होता है means one person is applying a force in the station and another person is applying a force in the station. Means if the force applied is 10 Newton and force applied in the station is plus 10 Newton, so their direction are opposite, means their signs will be opposite. एक माइनस का है तो one will be of positive sign. So the net force will be minus 10 plus 10 equal to 0. Okay, this is just for example. The net force of balanced object is always 0. Net force जो act होगा object के ऊपर वो होगा 0. In tug of war also, if two persons are playing tug of war and both are applying the same force, then no one will win. Means there is no change in the state of the rope. Okay, so this is an example of balanced force. Now unbalanced force. Unbalanced force occur when one force is greater than its opposite force. जब one force is greater than opposite force, तो object will move in the direction of the greater force. जिस डायरेक्शन में फोर्स ज़्यादा होगा उस डायरेक्शन की तरफ ऑब्जेक्ट मूव करेगा. सो दिस वाज अनबैलेंस्ड फोर्स. फॉर एग्जांपल, इफ द फोर्स अप्लाइड बाय वन पर्सन इज ग्रेटर देन इट विल विन, है ना, वो दूसरे वाले के हाथ को गिरा देगा. सो दिस इज एन एग्जांपल ऑफ अनबैलेंस्ड फोर्स. इन टग ऑफ वॉर ऑल्सो, व्हेन द फोर्स अप्लाइड बाय one side is greater, then the rope will move towards the direction of the greater force. Okay, this team will win. Okay, so this is an example of unbalanced force, because there is some moment, force is applied in both the directions, but in one direction force is greater than the other, so there is results in the motion of the object. So such type of force is called as unbalanced force. Okay, see this figure. One man is riding a bike in upward direction. So here is gravitational force acting on his bike and he is applying the force in this direction. Means he have to apply greater force than the gravitational force. उसको gravitational force से ज़्यादा force apply करना पड़ेगा to राइड द बाईसाइकिल इन अपवर्ड डायरेक्शन. अब हमें लगता है कि जब हम ऊपर चलते हैं तो हमें ज़्यादा फोर्स अप्लाई करना पड़ता है, तो जो ग्रेविटेशनल को हम अपोज करते हैं तो ग्रेविटेशनल से ज़्यादा जब हमारा फोर्स होगा तो हम मूव करेंगे इन अपोजिट डायरेक्शन. सो यहीं पे वही है कि यहाँ पे डाउनवर्ड डायरेक्शन में इस पर ग्रेविटेशनल फोर्स है एंड इट विल हैव टू अप्लाई मोर फोर्स, ग्रेटर फोर्स दैन द ग्रेविटेशनल फोर्स. This is an example of unbalanced force. In this figure also, the gravitational force is also acting in the downward direction and a man is also applying the force in the downward direction. So both the forces are in the same direction. So this is an example of unbalanced force. Okay, now let's see the properties of force. The first property is, if several forces are acting on the object, several forces are applied on the object in the same direction, a force equal to their addition acts on that object. For example, we have to move a heavy weight. For example, we have to move a heavy stone. This is a heavy stone and we have to move. Then it is very harder to move through one person. जब एक person इसको push करेगा तो it will take more force. But if several men are pushing the stone, then it becomes easy to push the stone. Means that if several forces, more than one persons or more than one forces are applying in the same direction, more than one forces are applying in the same direction, then the net force is equal to the sum of the forces. अब इस पे जो फोर्स अप्लाई हो रहा है, हम सब मिलकर इस पत्थर को लौटने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं, तो क्या होता है कि उस पर जो टोटल फोर्स होगा वो हम सब का फोर्स मिलकर होगा. फॉर एग्जाम्पल, इफ समवन इज अप्लाइंग अ फोर्स ऑफ 5 न्यूटन, इज अप्लाइंग अ फोर्स ऑफ 10 न्यूटन, इज अप्लाइंग अ फोर्स ऑफ 15 न्यूटन, मीन्स द टोटल फोर्स acting on the stone is the sum of these three objects, sum of these three persons. So it becomes easy when several persons are applying a force in the same direction. So that's written here that if the several forces are applied on an object in the same direction, then the force equal to their addition acts on that object. जब एक ही फोर्स पे सेवरल फोर्सेस अप्लाई होते हैं इन द सेम डायरेक्शन, देन उस पे जो नेट फोर्स होता है, टोटल फोर्स होता है, दैट इज इक्वल टू द सम ऑफ द फोर्सेस. Second thing, if two forces are applying on an object in the direction opposite to each other, a force is equal to their difference acts on the object. If the force is applying on the object in opposite directions, for example, this is our stone and one person is pushing it in this direction and one person is pushing it in this direction, the net force acting on this direction on this object is equal to the difference of this minus difference of this. That's written here. If two forces are acting on the object in opposite directions, then the net force is equal to the difference of the forces. Okay. A force is expressed in magnitude and direction. Force is a vector quantity. We know that the force have some direction. We push whenever we push something or we pull something, we are pushing or pulling in a particular direction, means we are applying a force in a particular direction. So whenever there is a concept of direction, means force is a vector quantity. Vector means the quantity has some direction.